What I'm going to talk about today is getting your fire started, fueling your fire. That inner fire, that identity that Todd was talking about, that purpose, that passion. And where I'd like to start first is I'd like you to all just take a minute and think about a time in your life when you felt lit up, when you felt on fire, when you felt that enthusiasm, that passion. And I just want you to just picture that just for a minute. Embody that. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to now think about where you are right now. Where are you? Are you a bonfire of heat and energy? Are you smoldering kind of coals, burning, needing another log to go on that fire to heat things up a bit? Where are you right now? And where do you want to be? Because what was talked about earlier, cycles of storms, there's also cycles of fire. We cannot be on fire all the time. That would be exhausting, right? But we also don't want to be completely burned out where there's just ashes on the floor, right? And there's no fire left, because that's where you're completely rebuilding. I guess that would be the demolition we were talking about earlier, right? So where are you today and where do you want to be? And I want to give you a few tools and just tips to think about that I've learned that can help you get that fire recharged if you want it to be recharged, if you're in that place. So, Simon Sinek is one of author who talks a lot about your why, and he says, what good is a belly with no fire in it? Wake up, drink your passion, light a match, and get to work. So earlier we were talking about identity, and he talks about a lot about finding your why, that passion. And it's different than what you do. So all of us in this room do something. I am a consultant. I am a trainer. I am a speaker. That's what I do. Why do I do that stuff? Why is that important to me? Why is that something that gets me up in the morning? And what that does for me is I want to inspire people to create so that they reach their potential. I want to inspire people to create. Why do you do what you do? Think about that. And we're not doing a workshop today about figuring that out. I'm going to assume you all have a sense for what it is that's in you, that's that fire. And what I want to tell you a little bit about is how we can fuel that fire. Now, one of the things that can really get in our way, barrier to getting that fire really charged, is fear. Fear. All kinds of fear. Little fears, big fears. Fear of the unknown, fear of looking stupid, fear of trying something different. And I want to tell you a bit of story about big fears that came up for me at a time in my life. And this story has to do with one day, my husband walked into the kitchen. I was just doing dishes innocently. And he said, Chris, what do you think about going to the South Pole? I was like, okay, this is my inner dialogue. Is he talking about going on an expedition to the South Pole? Just the two of us? I think that's what he's talking about. Panic, fear. Oh my gosh, what in the world are we going to do? That would take 2 months at least. So that means you're going to leave your job, or you're going to, I don't know, what are you going to do for 2 months to get off from work? I have my own business. I'm going to leave my work for 2 months? Oh my gosh. We have a son that's 12 years old. What? Is the dog going to take care of him? This is probably pretty expensive, and the list went on. And I had complete and utter resistance to this idea. So let me just spell out this idea a little more for you so you understand actually what this is all about. The idea is my husband and I, the two of us, no guide, dropped off at the edge of Antarctica, 570 miles later, ending up at the South Pole. Pulling our own sleds, 220 pounds each, with all of our gear, all of our food, all of our fuel, and 20 to 40 below temperatures while we were there. And yeah, that's most of the picture. That is what he's talking about. So for a full year, I had to internalize this idea. I had to research it before I could get over every one of the fears I just described to you. I don't think I actually ever really got over them. I just accepted them. and decided, yes, this is something we can try to attempt to do. So, the first thing I want to just explain to you and think about is when fear comes up, and it surely will, it will not go away. I first said on this slide, let's push through fear. Let's push through it. Let's manhandle it. But I decided, no, actually, we have to befriend fear because fear is something that is always going to be there. And so we learn to fly not by being fearless, but by that daily practice of courage that we just saw in that skit. The daily practice of courage. Do you know there is no such thing as courage without fear? They go hand in hand. So, my challenge is when you have those fears pop up, when you come to a networking event and you don't want to talk to somebody new, and when you don't even want to go to a networking event, just think of that. This is my friend, fear. We walk arm in arm everywhere we go because we're friends, right? So that's the first thing I want you to think about. And when you think that way, that fear is really just a barrier to trying to get you to not feel your fire, right? You're not fueling your fire when you're sitting in fear. You're building walls around yourself. You're putting yourself in a box. You're growing roots. You're getting moss all over you, and you're just in one spot. You're not moving anymore. But when you actually will break out of that box, break out of your comfort zone, now you're going to get somewhere. Now you can fuel your fire. The second thing I want to think about is the challenge that's presented. Sometimes there's small challenges that pop up every day. Sometimes there's challenges that you put in front of yourself, like this expedition that I'm talking about. That was a chosen challenge. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm one of those people who likes to put challenges in front of themselves. And just a little bit about me. So I have this consultancy, and we do innovation and creative work for, companies all over the country. So that's been successful for 20 years. But on a personal level, I put these challenges in front of me. I run 100-mile races in the mountains with my husband. I've been doing that for over a decade. That's like running in the mountains for 100 miles straight and 24 hours of running. Yeah, that's what that is. There's actually a whole subculture that does this. I have climbed some of the biggest mountains in the world. And, we try to embed this sense of adventure in our son as well. And so we've taken him to Africa a few times and biked from Kilimanjaro to the coast and various other escapades. So those are the kinds of things I'm used to. So when this Antarctica idea came up, it wasn't so far out, but it was pushing me well beyond where I had ever been before. And so what started happening is 3 years of training, planning, preparing. There's no book that tells you how to do this. There's no guidebook. There's no person that's going to tell me how to do this. We had to read every single book we could find about Antarctica. We had to search out experts. And then we started the rigorous training and acquiring of gear. So, running hundreds of miles, literally pulling these SUV tires around for 10 hours at a time to simulate pulling sleds. Yeah. So, when you take on a big challenge, whatever it is, you're devoting yourself to getting through that challenge, right? And the biggest challenge of all, any of you who are parents in this room, is to leave my son for 2 months. At a vulnerable age of 12. How do you do that? How do you reconcile that? And we really came to that decision that, if we want to demonstrate to our son how to live passionately, how to follow your dreams, this is what we're going to do. So here we are. Now all of this 3 years has gone by, and we are now being dropped off by this. There was multiple flights. Now we're being dropped off by this little Cessna red airplane, 2 of us with our sleds in it, and they're dropping us at where the coast of Antarctica meets the ice, and then they drop us off, unload our sleds. There you go. See you later, and bid farewell, and we see this red speck going off into the distance. And there we are. There we are. Oh my God, the piercing silence I've never experienced in my entire life. And the challenge was just unfolded right there in front of us. We didn't know exactly how long it was going to take, but we knew it was going to be 40 to 50 days. And here we were, starting this journey. Now, I've got an hour-long presentation I could go into, but I'm going to have to skip fast forward. Basically, every day in Antarctica is a challenge. And so 9 hours a day of pulling these sleds. But you wake up and there's 2 hours of work to do before. You pack up your gear every single day, put it in your sled. You're melting snow for 2 hours beforehand. And then you're doing that whole thing when you get to camp every night. So this is over 48 days. We got 1 day of rest. And we hit things like this. It's not just flat in Antarctica. It's actually, this is frozen waves of snow that are from 1 foot to 4 feet tall, and we want to go straight through there. That's our route. And there's 150 miles of this. Yeah. And we were traveling like 12 miles a day. So that's many days of hard work. And the challenge of anything you're doing, the challenge of frozen goggles, not being able to see, the challenge of whiteouts, the challenge of navigating, the challenge of eating a bar through your frozen face mask, the challenge of trying to go to the bathroom. There's just endless challenges every single day. And by the end of 48 days, I was at the end of where I have never been physically or mentally, and I did not have any fire left. There was nothing left. I was sitting there cold and tired, and I thought, where is that fire? I literally wanted a real fire, but I didn't have an actual fire. But I mean, where is the fire? I mean, really, you'd think you'd be running on adrenaline, but the adrenaline ran out. So, when we arrived at the pole, day 48, at 10 a.m. Seattle time on a Saturday, and it was 50 below, the coldest day of the entire trip. Right before we got there, we decided to pull out the sat phone and call my son and share that moment with him. And in that moment, the spark started. All over again, to share that moment with him is forever burned in my memory. And the fire came back because it all became worth it. So, tip number 2. Embrace those challenges. And if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And that's really the point, is you're looking for challenges as opportunities to grow, to morph into that next identity of who you're going to become next, right? That's what it's all about. And that's where that fire is going to keep burning. Because when you're stagnant, that's when the fire goes out, right? Finally, connecting with other people, connecting with the greater world, the greater good, can feed you and give you fire. And in our case, we were blogging every single day and leaving a voice blog, and we had kids following us from all kinds of schools, and this is my son's school. His entire school was following us. And, we did a satellite phone call with their entire school. They were all in the gym, and it was right before Christmas, and we called in, and it was the most satisfying call, sitting in that freezing tent, all of these kids asking questions and screaming with excitement. And when we got back, we presented to all these kids, and the 3rd grader who says, I used to take the easy way out, and now that I followed you this whole time, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or the woman who said to me, I was following you, and it was kind of cold in North Bend while you were gone. And I didn't want to do my 5-mile run because it was kind of cold. And I decided that, I'm going to do that run because, you're out there doing this. And this is how it works. This connection was amazing. These are the people who actually pushed us to the pole. That was amazing. It was the magic ingredient that pushes you over the top. Whatever you're doing in your life or your business, when you can connect beyond what's important to you and it expands out to other people into their lives, that is where the magic is going to happen. And there's no way you can't have fire grow inside of you when that happens. It's impossible. And then when we arrived at the airport with just amazing family and friends there, you cannot undertake anything that's this big on your own. And why should you? There's nothing in life that you should have to do by yourself. you know, when you connect with others, it becomes so much richer. It becomes so much better. And, you know, the family that came and stayed with my son, it was just amazing. The deep, deep connections, the love that was shared was phenomenal. And that, I think, is what life is really all about. So finally, connect and love is really another way that we can fuel that fire. Where there's love, there's life. And where there is life, there is your light. And that is your fire. And to me, that is really, as I said, what it's all about. And we don't talk about love in a business setting. I don't think I've ever heard it, ever. We talk about, well, for sure, emotional intelligence and emotional connection is getting more weight these days. We are becoming disconnected because of technology a lot of times. And these kinds of events just like this are perfect to get face-to-face connection. And I can't stress enough that, you don't have to change your profession, you don't have to change your job, you don't have to change anything you're doing. You just have to open your heart up and let some of that love out. And that's going to spill over into whatever you're doing. And if we all were to do that, man, we're going to light up this world. It's going to be pretty amazing. So, fueling your fire, 3 tips for you, really. Go out there, first of all, and befriend those fears. Walk around courageously with that fear, arm in arm. Second one is we want to embrace those challenges, those big challenges, right? And then third, we want to connect and love. And those are the 3 things. If you do all of those, one of them, mix them in, you're going to fuel that fire and throw another log on the fire. And what I want to do right now is I have these lighters that we're going to pass out. And together, we're going to do a little symbolic exercise. Just look around the room. If we could actually see inside each other, this is what we'd see. This is this beautiful fire that we all have. They all have their own reason. So I want you to walk out into the world today, this week, and I want you to think about that fire, lighting it, sharing it with somebody. Thank you.